Well, hello, friends. Welcome to Blooming in a Cage, a podcast for humans. I'm so glad you could be here. I am just going to be honest with you. I've been messing with the lighting in here because I have a steroid headache. I had one last week, and yes, if you recall me talking about it, it's because we're on week 2 of steroids. We're very excited about it. We have a couple more weeks left, and then we're going to be moving on to vacation and hopefully feeling so much more fantastic. Don't get arthritis in your knees. It's just literally the worst. I just don't recommend it to anybody. If you were thinking about taking it up or asking Santa for it for Christmas, take a skip. If you're here tonight, I don't know if there's anybody in here yet. Pop over to the chat and let me know you're here and present so I don't feel like I'm here in the spare room studios talking to myself and have just spent the last 10 minutes trying to get the lights to illuminate my face enough that you could see it, but far enough away that they weren't glaring right into my eyeballs. Because I don't know if you've ever been on steroids, but they kind of make you feel like your head's split in half. That's at least how they make me feel. So I'm so glad that you're here with me, whether you're watching me on the restream on YouTube or Spotify, or if you're listening to me on Spotify, just leave a comment. Say, hey, I'm here. I came across your podcast, or I'm one of your friends listening to you on my way into work. Let me know you're there. I would love to hear from the Spotify listeners. If you're listening to me on YouTube, put a comment up and say, hey, I'm here. And I would love it if you just say on the restream, or if you're here live with me, pop in and say hello. I want to know how everybody's week's been. I will tell you how mine's been. I am on the second week of having knee injections into my right knee for arthritis. Synthetic gel made from chicken comb. I'm actually turning into a bird. I actually have at least one friend that still calls me Bird as a nickname. Ha ha ha, because my name's Robin. Real original nickname. And they're terrible. They're very uncomfortable. I was thankful that my son Riley was with me at the last time. I have such incredible doctors and nurses that I work with, and they're so great. Get me ice packs right away and just talking to me, chit-chatting with me through the whole thing, but it's very uncomfortable, and I have one more to go, and then I am on to recovery mode, and then one other injection I gotta have to just kind of combat this. My body kind of rejects the gel that they give me, so I just go into this inflammatory shock syndrome, like basically an infection. So it's not fun. But anyways, enough about me. What's going on with you kids? If you're here in the chat, pop over and let me know if you're lurking here. I would love to chit chat with you and find out how your week's been. It's Wednesday, friends, and October. It's the middle of October. How did that happen? I feel like time is speeding up somehow, and like the end of the year, I feel like we were just in June. Like June was two weeks ago, and now here we are in the middle of October, and I am just flabbergasted. One thing that is coming up next month, and I'm going to keep on saying it, is Operation Christmas Child. I do have shoe boxes available. If you do not live here locally, go on to SamaritansPurse.com and find a drop-off location. Also, just go on to Samaritan's Purse, and if you can, just send a donation to them, or find out if you live somewhere that you can go, or if you have time to go and serve. They are serving in Tennessee and Western North Carolina, where so many people, in Florida, where so many people are affected by these last couple hurricanes, and they do real relief. Unlike FEMA, and unlike the government, who's going to send people $750 debit card that they can't use. So that's my commercial. Samaritan's Purse, Pack a Box. It's a wonderful organization, and I'm so excited to try to get my brain into shoebox mode. So if you want to pack a box, I have a box. If you want to pack a box and you don't want to physically pack a box, you can go into Samaritan's Purse, and they will pack a box for you. You can just send them donations. If you want to send us a donation to help pack a box, my Venmo is right up there in the corner, and you can click onto that and send us some love and just earmark it shoebox campaign. We are still looking for a little bit of funds to fund our U-Haul truck that takes the shoe boxes from here in Brattleboro in the Windham County area. We are the 05301 drop-off location, and carries them all the way up to Rutland to our central drop-off location to my friend Mary Shields. And we have a couple trips we actually have to take back and forth, and gas and U-Haul trucks. So I would appreciate the love there to help fund that. If you're here in the chat, again, pop over and let me know. Next week on the podcast, we have Levy and Nicole Bendicoat who will be on. Levy is a DJ. I don't think is that the right term? A DJ at the Light Radio. And God has a pretty cool story. They have a pretty cool story of how God drew them to Vermont, and some stuff that's going on in their life. And I'm excited to chit chat with them. I met their family in July. We hosted one of their sons, Titus, at summer camp this summer. And we just kind of have fallen in love with this family. And then the following week is my friend Valerie Rodriguez from down in the Providence, Rhode Island area. She has a, excuse me, she has a tremendous testimony about God healing and touching her back. And she is a tremendous evangelism. If you want to know how to share the gospel easily with every single person you come in contact with, tune in the end of this month to Valerie Rodriguez. You will fall in love with this woman. I've gotten to know her very well over the last couple of years, and I'm excited to chit chat with her, and hear her testimony of healing, and have her just encourage me about reaching the lost for Jesus. And then I will be taking the first week in November off as we are going on family vacation. The following week, the next 2 weeks, I'm unsure of our programming because I will be deep into Shoebox Campaign. And I'm just not quite sure what's going to be happening. I may decide the week after that I need to recover from vacation before I head into Shoebox Campaign. So to be announced for the rest of November as to what's happening. Tonight's topic. Oh, let's see. There's somebody over here in the chat. Let's see who's in the chat. Hi, Amanda. Oh, you're here tonight. I'm so glad you're here, Amanda. I'm like alone tonight, I feel like. Is anybody else here in the chat? I see a couple lurkers. My phone's fallen over. That's about how my week's gone. Trying to keep my phone up at a distance where I can see it with the readers and not be like this in front of you. But whatever. It's fine. We're all friends, right? Have you heard that TikTok sound? We're all friends in the club. I don't know. My kids are going to die right now that I just said that. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you're like, what? Hi, Karen. Welcome to the podcast. I don't think I've seen you here before. I'm so glad you're here. That's my friend Karen. Karen, I've known for a long time. Let's just put it that way. A long time. Like the 1900s. We met in the 1900s, Karen. That's funny to say that. Like the to say mid 1900s, probably like mid 80s. I'm guessing there, mid 80s. It is everywhere, man. We're all fam in the club. That's how we are tonight. So anyways, tonight's topic, let me not get away from that. Tonight's topic is one that I am not, it'd be easy on me. Yes, I'm from the early 1900s. Well, not early, it's really mid 1900s. You're the late 1900s, Amanda. Okay, I already know. Okay, I already know that I remember when you were a baby, so don't bring it up. So tonight's topic is one that I knew I was going to be on tonight by myself, and I was like, okay, Lord, what do you want me to talk about? And I kept on hearing this phrase over and over and over and over again that my mom actually said to me. She probably doesn't even remember this. She's sitting in some hotel room in Virginia with my dad. I don't know if they're on. If you're in there, Mom and Dad, let me know. They may be sound asleep. They spent the morning riding the Blue Ridge Mountains. I was very jealous of them as they're making their way home from visiting my brother in Georgia. But my mom said this to me maybe over a year ago, I think. I was trying to think about how long ago it was. And for whatever reason, the Lord kind of brought it back to my memory this week. And I was like, I was thinking about somebody else and something they're going through personal. And I was like, you know what? I think that's it. And maybe it's just the Lord brought it back for me. And maybe it's just for me. And you guys are going to be my talk therapist tonight, to help me work this out. But the term was my mom. I was talking about a friendship that I thought was over. And it was over because not of like any one thing someone had done, but just that I felt not, there's my love. Hi, love. Not received or welcome. I'm not sure how to like phrase it. We'll get into it maybe in a minute, but my mom said to me, just shake the dust off your feet, Robin. And I kind of was like, yeah, I know, sometimes you just got to leave a situation. And that's the phrase, which actually you can read about this in the book of Mark and Matthew and I believe Luke both. And it's a verse here. Let me look here. Mark 10:14. I'm gonna look it up real quick, kids, because it's not in the notes that I had. See, this is why you should know, have everything organized. If you're tuning into this podcast for somebody who's organized, wrong channel. Matthew 10, verse 14, and it says, if anyone who does not receive you or listen to your words, shake the dust off your feet when you leave their house or town. Now, for context, Jesus was talking to his disciples. At this point in his ministry, he had paired them up, I believe, in pairs of 2 or 3, and had sent them out to share the gospel, to share the news of the Messiah, that the Messiah was there. And he was saying, if you go to a house or a town and they won't listen to you and they won't receive this word, just leave. Just shake the dust off your feet, in a way saying, like, wash your hands of the situation and just leave. But a couple things that were interesting to me this week is I was thinking about them doing that, this context, these Jewish men going to different towns and groups of people, Jews, Gentiles, different groups of people that they were going to. And a couple things struck me. As one is that Jews, when they greet each other, they say shalom, shalom, which means peace, peace. And then as they leave, they say shalom, shalom, peace, peace. And one thing that I was thinking about is oftentimes when, now, in this context, and this is where we're taking a little bit of leeway with this scripture, to just talk about when you go somewhere, or say you have a business relationship or a relationship with friends, a marriage, a friendship, a church, a club, the Elks clubs or whatever it is. Sometimes you just not receive there. And sometimes I think that in the case of this relationship that I was talking about with my mom, it wasn't that anybody had done anything. It was more that, and this is going to sound really cliche, but I can't really think of another way to put it. We had kind of outgrown each other, in the sense that I had grown into somebody that I wasn't prior in this relationship, and they had grown and changed into somebody that wasn't who I was friends with before. And so in a sense that we had were in different places. And I relate to the scripture because in this scripture, the disciples were going to people's homes and towns, and they were sharing the gospel. And what Jesus was saying is, if they don't receive the truth from you, shake the dust off your feet. And I was thinking about that phrase that they would say. They would have said shalom, shalom. And oftentimes when we leave and relationships are over, we're not at peace. And that's what I've been struggling with, is like I've had relationships that I have moved on from or ended, but I didn't have peace about it. And what I realized was it wasn't them that had done anything necessarily wrong. It was that I was not taking my peace with me. And I think that's kind of like a double meaning there. Oftentimes it's because we feel like, and in this sense, I felt like I had still had my peace to say, not the kind of peace that I'm talking about that I should be having in my heart, but more that I had my peace to say. Because anybody relate to that sometimes something ends and you feel like you still have something to say or something more to add. And so you can't really wash your hands of it or dust your feet off and leave because you still feel like you have something to say, which I think the disciples would have felt that way too when they went to a town and they were sharing the gospel. And if it wasn't met with peace, in the sense that it wasn't received well, that they probably had something to say about that. Like, hey, guys, this is the Messiah, don't you know? And what Jesus was saying was sometimes there's places and people and things that we just have to simply walk away from. We simply just have to dust our feet off and say, I'm done. And we have to be at peace about that, that's the right thing to do. That, and maybe I'm the only one that's ever felt that way. So, what's the symbolism of this dusting your feet off? It's kind of a powerful metaphor for leaving negative energy. And I don't like that word because it's like very, hi, Pop. We're talking about shaking the dust off. I'm glad you relate to that, Amanda. She says, I've totally felt that even recently. Very relevant. Well, I'm glad that it wasn't just for me. That sometimes there's unhealthy relationships. That's the term I'll use. At least this is kind of what stirred up into me. That are, oh gosh, this sounds terrible, but it's the only words. Like, it was no longer serving me. And it's not that relationships that I'm some person's like, oh, you're only in relationships with people where you get stuff. No, but in a healthy relationship, a friendship, a business partner, a church. Hi, how are you tonight? That sometimes there's relationships that, and especially like if you're thinking about romantic relationships, friendships, close friendships, businesses, church family, those circles that I'm thinking about, sometimes they're no longer serving me good. They're kind of, and that's why I kind of like that thought that the Jews would have said, shalom, shalom, peace, peace. And then when they left that situation, even if it was negative, they said, shalom, shalom. They took their peace with them. And I think there's a lot of us who are not taking our peace with us when we leave a situation. So Karen says, I'm not alone. Thank goodness I'm not alone. This is true in my life right now. I think it's true for a lot of people. And I think that one of the reasons is because we want to say our piece. We don't want to keep our peace. We want to say our piece when it comes. And we make sure everybody knows what's happening in the relationship or why it ended. And sometimes the best thing to do for us is to just shake the dust off our feet and take our peace with us and not allow the end of a relationship to cause us to be in turmoil, to not have peace. Because ultimately, something I learned a long time ago is I can't control the actions of other people. I can't control how someone receives the truth. And if I'm a Christian, which is kind of the what I relate to a little bit in this, is that I had grown spiritually. And there were some areas in my life that I was really convicted about, no longer keeping silent about. And so speaking up about that was not received well. So the only choices I had was to either stand firm and continue to try to talk to somebody that doesn't want to listen. But the words of Jesus to the disciples was, when you're not received, to shake the dust off your feet and just leave. But take your peace with you. And I was thinking about shaking the dust off, and I had this picture. I don't know if you guys know who this is. Pigpen. Anybody a Snoopy fan and know about Pigpen? Pigpen had this problem. He didn't know how to shake the dust off. He was kind of incapable of shaking the dust off. He kind of carried it around with him, and he just kind of had this dirty cloud. And I was thinking about, that's what a lot of us look like kind of spiritually when we leave. Just for example, you attend a church and you decide to part ways because it's not at peace in your soul for whatever reason. And so rather than saying shalom, shalom and leaving, we kind of take that dust cloud with us and wherever we go, or a friendship that's ended and we kind of take that dust with us. You catch what I'm saying? And we walk around with all this kind of dirt. And one of the things about dirt in relationships is we usually share it with other people. You ever get a juicy piece of dirt and you're like, ooh, I got to share that. That's kind of the way we are when relationships no longer serve us, is we walk around not shaking the dust off, not leaving our peace, rather than giving a piece to everybody, saying, I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. And I think what the Lord's showing me is that sometimes there's relationships in my life that the best thing to do is to say shalom, shalom, and leave and just dust my feet off. So, what empowerment comes? Can anybody relate to that? Have you had an example of that you can share about dusting your feet off of something and how that felt? Because am I the only one that's inclined to choose somebody out when they don't receive me well? Like, when I come with good intentions, to share something with them, the truth with them, and it doesn't get received well. So rather than just saying, okay, dust my feet off, wash my hands of it and leave, we walk around feeling righteously indignant to give our piece rather than to take our piece and leave. So the empowerment that comes when you recognize that it's time to leave a relationship, whether that's romantic or a marriage that's toxic. And I am not a cheerleader for divorce. Don't come on here and say, gosh, Robin was talking about people divorcing their loved ones. No, I'm not. What I'm talking about is that sometimes that's something that happens in life, that you have to leave a relationship, a business relationship, a church relationship, a ministry partner, or simply just a friend. And sometimes even family. That's just real. And I will refer back to Pigpen, that this is how most of the time we don't kick the dust off. We just kind of walk around in a pigpen pile of dust. So the empowerment that comes when we are able to dust our feet off, shake the dust off, and move on. And moving on is, and I think that that's kind of what the picture, the parable that, not really necessarily a parable for a lack of a better word, I guess, for myself, steroid brain, is that when you shake the dust off, quite literally, when you go somewhere and you think about, my parents went to the beach. I'm jealous of you guys going to Myrtle Beach this week. When you go to the beach and you have sand on your feet, right? It's in your toes, and you're in the back of the car. We went to Old Orchard Beach this summer with my sons and my daughter and her husband, and we were out on the beach, and we get back to the car, and you're sitting there and you got the towel and you're like scrubbing your feet off and trying to get all the sand off, and you're taking a piece of that sand home with you, right? You're taking a piece of that land, that dust, that dirt that you have with you. And when you dust your feet off, when you leave a situation, you're leaving that situation behind. You're not taking it on into another area of your life. Oh, you went to Hilton Head. I'm sorry, wrong beach. See, Steroid Head. I'm still jealous you went to Hilton Head. It's still a beautiful beach. And it's like 37 here this morning when I got up. But when you leave the beach, you take some of it with you. And the same thing is sometimes when you leave, excuse me, you leave a relationship or a person, is you take the dust. And you're right, Dad. The problem that most people have is that they can't move on. And I think that the reason most people can't move on is because we want our piece, our side to be heard. And the thing that I'm learning is that I would rather have peace in my heart than have my piece heard. So Amanda says here, my ex-best friend decided to end our friendship because she didn't like the hard truth I told her. And it was so hard to just say okay and walk away rather than argue and try to have her understand. It's still hard not to reach out to her and tell her how I feel. I miss her and I love her, but I'm trying my best to keep that relationship in the past and not let it affect new ones. Amanda, I relate to that more than you know, girl. It is hard because we want, one, it's hard to lose people. That's hard. It's hard to move on from something that maybe you've invested a lot of time, a lot of your heart, a lot of your, money or whatever it is. That's a practical heart. But it's so healthy for you when you are not received, to rather than like knocking the door down, to just walk away. And what I have found is when I left relationships that were no longer serving me, I know how that sounds, but I hope you hear me. They were no longer serving me for my emotional, physical, and spiritual health, that I was able to then value the relationships that I have with people who do enhance my spiritual, mental, and physical well-being. And they were so much more valuable because it was like, that's what I want. That's the relationship that I need in my life. That's the edification that I need in my life. That's what I need. And I can let go of that. And so many people walk around wanting to be like, it's like Pigpen. Like, we want to take our dust from the hurt that someone did and we want to drag it around to show everybody else. And that just doesn't make my heart be at peace. So for me, I've just decided to move on, like quite literally wash my feet and say, I'm not taking any of the sand between my toes that I'm feeling from this relationship. I'm just going to move on. So some real life applications. One is when you leave a toxic situation, this is an act of self respect for yourself, that you respect yourself enough to surround yourself with people who will be spiritually helping you grow, working on your emotional and physical health and your mental health, which are important. And I think one struggle that I have had as a Christian, and this isn't like something that was taught to me. I think it's, as I was thinking about this today, I think it's more of a Christian cultural thing than something that was taught to me. That, like, the scripture says, try to live at peace with all men. And as I was thinking about that, I think what I got wrong is I was thinking, oh, that means I have to be nice and friendly and in relationship with all people. But the truth is, what that scripture says means be at peace with them. So what that means is when they cause me offense, I just say, okay, I shake the dust off my feet and I'm at peace with them. It doesn't mean I have to be in a relationship with them. And I think that's something that the Lord is teaching me, is that it's okay to say, I'm at peace with this. I'm not required to be in a relationship. I'm not even required to like sit down and have a chit chat with you about why I don't want to be in a relationship with you, but I do have to be at peace with you, which means I don't get to take that dust and show it off to other people about the wrong that you did to me or about why I'm no longer in relationship with somebody. That I can say, I don't talk to them anymore. I would know, and leave it at that. And how healthy that is for me, and gives me more opportunities for growth, when it's necessary to kind of shake the dust off of a relationship. So how do we know it's time to move on? I think that for myself, and this has been over the course of a couple years, I started to really kind of take stock in the people that I like to coin as being my dream defenders, my small inner circle, my cheerleaders, right? The people in my life that I thought of first to text and tell them to pray for me because I knew they would pray, or the person I could be vulnerable with. So how do you know when it's time to move on from a relationship? One is just like the disciples when Jesus said, if they don't receive you, like shake the dust off. If you go with them with truth and they don't. And I was thinking about like people who gaslight, and I know that's like a really trendy word right now, and I try to stay away from those trendy words, but like people who gaslight you, people who go and you're like, that really hurt my feelings when you excluded me from that, or so and so said this to me, and they, instead of being vulnerable and validating your feelings and chit chatting with you, they kind of gaslight you. That's a great time to evaluate and say, you know what, maybe I need to distance myself from this, because true friends will pursue you with authenticity, not with, are you mad at me? But rather, hey, what's going on? Do you see the difference in the tone? Um, so, how do I know when it's time to move on and when it's time to just sit down and work something out? And I think that's what I just said is the difference between someone who's like, what's your problem? Are you mad at me? Or, hey, what's going on? Can we chat? I feel like there's something weird between us, and I feel like I'd like to sit down and chat. Because sometimes it's just that it's not maybe it was a misunderstanding, maybe they're in a weird place, maybe it's just a matter of hurt feelings, maybe you were on steroids and were really ugly. Sorry to my family this week. you know, or maybe it's time that you just communicate. I had a friend this weekend who was like, "Why are we not communicating? It's just a conversation." Not to me, but just about a different topic. And sometimes it's as simple as that, is it's communication that needs to happen, but sometimes it's moving on, and discernment is a big part of that. And I think that that's something that I spent a long time thinking of. This one incident with someone that I prayed and said, Lord, show me if I'm doing the right thing. And I'll be honest with you, it's a discussion that I'm still having. Him and I this week are discussing it as I was diving into dusting my feet off, saying, Lord, am I doing the right thing? And I think especially when it comes to, oh, I have not read your text, Amanda. I'm sorry. Amanda says, I feel like you've read my text between this friend. Sorry. I hope this helps. But it's sometimes there's somebody who's just not in a place to hear truth. And that's the thing that I'm learning, is that's really about them, not about you. And sometimes I just need to discern whether it's just time to take a break. And that's okay to say to somebody, I just need to take a break for myself. That's not something that I am notoriously not good at standing up for myself when it comes to friendships. I will say that my husband's probably like in the chat right now, like, yes, nodding his head. I am notorious for complaining about what other people do or say or how they made me feel without telling them. That really hurt my feelings when you made that joke, or when you excluded me from that and I found out, and that really hurt my feelings. That's not something that I'm really good at. Maybe that shocks you, but I am notoriously bad at standing up for myself and friendships, which has led me to a lifelong of friendships that have run me over like one of those things on the highways that flattens out the blacktop, squishes me. I'm notoriously bad at telling people when they hurt my feelings. That's not an area that I am strong in, but it is an area that I have. My friend Missy, who's not here tonight, if you're listening, Missy, on the restream, told me it's because I'm almost 50. I'll be 50 in February, and that when you hit this age, that you just decide you don't care what other people think. And I think she's right, because as I've hit this age, it's kind of like, no, I don't care. I'm going to tell you how I feel and when you're wrong, and that you hurt my feelings, and that was rude, and that's none of your business, and all those phrases that I used to not say. So what happens when you're able to move on and kind of dust your feet off of people is you're reclaiming yourself and your truth, and you're able to, especially in situations that kind of drain or diminish you. And that was the thing with me, is that I said this phrase to somebody. I said, I have been there for every terrible thing in this person's life. And then when I said those words out loud, it was like at the same time the person I was talking to and I kind of came to the same realization. It was like, wow, you're right. You've only been there for really terrible things. You've never been there for the mundane or the really great things. Um, so it's when you recognize that there's relationships that are draining you, it can almost be like a light switch gets turned on when you distance yourself from that unhealthy relationship and you suddenly feel empowered and energized by this friendship or partnership or church environment, whatever it is. I'm not telling you to leave your church. Okay. Listen to me. I'm just saying that sometimes there's relationships and things that are no longer serving a positive way in our life and that we have to just move on from that. Um, and not leave angry, not leave mad, leave with your peace intact. Shalom, shalom. So practical stacks. How can you shake the feet off the how can you shake your feet off, girl? How can you shake the dust off your feet? Um, for me, changing my mindset about my priorities when I enter a relationship. Who are the people that I want to be? And what I'm talking about is intimate friendships. I'm talking about marriages. I'm talking about ministry partners. I'm talking about friendships. And I'm talking about family. That's sticky. Don't go tell your uncle off unless he really deserves it. But my point is that evaluating those relationships and what you need and what you want. And that's a hard one for me, that I am not typical to ask people for what I need. That is something that I work very, very hard at because your girl's got anxiety. Okay. So asking for what I need makes me feel dumb, needy, and insecure. And I would say, particularly over the last couple years, I have worked very hard on myself to ask for what I need, be okay with sharing how I'm feeling. If I'm feeling anxious and someone asks me how I am, I work very hard to have safe relationships surrounding me that I can say, I'm feeling very anxious today. I'm feeling very sad today, because I want relationships that will help me grow, that will help me mature, that will help me. Yeah, Karen nailed it. I don't want to ask because I don't want to become a burden to anybody. Girl, you nailed it. That's exactly it. I don't want to need your help. I can do it on my own. Sorry, Diet Coke cures migraines. I don't know why, specifically McDonald's. It's a very true thing that I don't want to ask because I don't want to be a burden to anybody. But a few years ago, someone said to me when I was very ill and they were coming over to make food for me and actually help me get into the shower. And they said to me, it's not a burden to help those people you love. And I thought about that and I thought, anytime there's somebody that I love that calls me or texts me or I see and they have a need that I can fulfill, it doesn't feel like a burden. It might be an inconvenience. Let's just be real, right? It might be a sacrifice, but it's not a burden. It's actually a joy to serve those that I love. It is tough being Superwoman. I'm actually Wonder Woman, but that's fine. You can be Superwoman. I will be Wonder Woman, Princess Diana. But it's true. Oftentimes we don't share what we need with people because we don't want to be a burden, but the people that want to be in relationship with us, we're not a burden. It's actually a joy for them to serve us. And the people that we're a burden to, And that when I share my needs with them and it's like, ugh, or they just immediately talk about themselves or narcissist much, those are the people that I need to shake the dust off my feet and just move on and find, because to be healthy in my spiritual and mental health, um, is moving. I'm just moving past that and getting into relationships. Sorry, I got distracted for a second because my friend Mary. Hi, Mary. I thought you were just lurking, not watching here. She says, I've learned that asking for help from others often allows them to be a blessing to me and to serve God through the gifts that He's blessed them with. So my friend Katrina Reshad, one time a friend of mine was offering to my friend Donna, my sister Donna was offering to help me do something. I was like, you don't have to do that, And Katrina said, don't rob Donna of her blessing. And I've never forgotten that. Thank you, Katrina, if you're out there, that when I don't let someone bless me, I'm actually robbing them of the blessing of blessing me. Because when someone asks for help and I love them and I can meet them, it's like a joy to be able to serve them. So the practical thing is sometimes there's things that we need to shake the dust off our feet because that relationship's no longer serving us. So one way we do that is just by simply ending the relationship, no longer talking to them. And that doesn't always look like a conversation. And that's something I want to talk about because that's one thing that I've been struggling with is do I have to have a conversation? I don't think so. I think sometimes we can just phase out the friendship because real friends will continue to pursue you in a loving way. And people who you're no longer serving and don't want you in a relationship won't pursue you. Sometimes that's through setting boundaries. And sometimes, specifically when it comes to family, sometimes we have to set a boundary and say, this is not healthy for me. And so I'm no longer going to be in this setting with these people. Me too. Mary said it. I'm still an independent New England girl on the inside. I am too. Maybe that's what it is. Cause like my mom said, she thinks my first words were, I can do it by myself. And I still say that I can do it by myself. But asking for help, excuse me. That's what happens when you have Diet Coke, is hard. But when you have people in your life, relationships that want to help you, you're not a burden. It's actually a joy. And I'm sorry, I'm going to look at my notes now, chatting. Okay. Mindset shifts. And I think that for me was a big thing is that I realized, I've evaluated these friendships and there's some friendships that are not healthy for me. Therefore, I'm no longer going to leave room for them. And they're not going to occupy my mind. And I was thinking about that when it comes to like shaking the dust off or not taking your peace with you. I love that concept that sometimes relationships end and we're still not at peace with it, but we really do need to be at peace with it. We need to move on, not take any grain of sand from that relationship with us, to just say, I'm going to leave you at peace and I'm going to take my peace with me and I'm going to go. And changing my mindset that it's okay that sometimes relationships end. That's just the truth. Sometimes it's okay that business relationships end and you no longer do business with that person. Sometimes it's okay when ministry partners leave and you're no longer doing ministry with them because God's got something different for you to do, or He's got another person for you to work with. Or simply that person was holding you back from what God was really calling you to do. Sometimes there's relationship and friendships that are no longer serving your spiritual and physical and mental well-being, and it's time for you to just move on. Sometimes there's romantic relationships and even sometimes marriages. I know that's a hard one, but because oftentimes we leave. Now, listen, I just told my husband this week, if I ever die and you get lonely, get a dog. There's nobody else you can find that like me. That's it. Get a dog. But I joke because my husband is my best friend and I can't imagine life without him. But many marriages end in divorce and they end because of toxic behavior on one partner's being, and sometimes it's because of spiritual growth and one not growing, or simply sin. Um, but most marriages end with bitterness and people walking around. I'll refer back to our picture, right? They walk around like this, and they're going to tell you about their low down, dirty, nasty ex. That's not really leaving with peace, especially if you have children involved. So setting boundaries, changing your mindset, and sometimes simply just leaving a relationship and saying, um, there's this term that I've heard this past year called quiet quitting. Have you ever heard this term? It's where you're going to work, but you no longer feel valued by the company you're working for. You no longer feel supported, but because you need that paycheck, girl, you show up every day, but you're not giving your all in all. You're just showing up as a warm body, and they call it quiet quitting. And I feel there's a lot of friendships that I've quiet quit this year, that I've just gone, you know what? I'm done. I'm not going to show up anymore. I'm not going to give everything I have because it was taking my peace. And I think that's the bottom line of this chit chat, is that sometimes there's peace not being given in relationships, and you just feel not at peace. So evaluate the relationships in your life, whether that's ministry, church, friendship, business, relationships, whatever it is, family. And first, ask the Lord, say, give me discernment as to if there's something I can do. Is there a conversation? No problem, Alice. Thanks for coming in. Is there people in my life that I can sit down and be vulnerable with? And I would encourage you, if you have a relationship with somebody, to do that first, to speak your truth and see if it's welcomed. That's what Jesus was saying to the disciples. If the truth is not received, shake the dust off your feet. And I think that's kind of what my takeaway is, that sometimes there's truth that I'm speaking to someone and they don't receive it. And so it's okay for me to shake the dust off my feet and just leave. But to take my peace with me, to not let them keep an ounce of my peace. I shouldn't be like Pigpen, walking around carrying a bunch of dust from relationships that have ended, for whatever. Relationships end for a lot of reasons. And I think no one wants to live like Pigpen. Can you imagine? That poor kid probably has emphysema. I was cleaning in our cottage on Sunday. We went up to close our cottage, and there was some stuff that's been sitting there since, I don't know, September, I guess, so a month or so. And I was like, I was itching by the time I left. Dust mites, and we need to not carry any of that stuff with us over into other relationships, over into your mind when you're laying in bed. I think that's one thing that vexes me, is when you're not at peace about the way something ended or the way things are with somebody and you're alone, your mind will think about that. So think about it. Is there a conversation that I need to have with some individuals, and speak my truth, and then evaluate and ask the Lord for discernment in regards to this relationship, and be okay. Change your mindset. Don't be like me. Think, oh, okay, this is over. This relationship is over, and I'm going to just shake the dust off my feet, and I'm going to move on. But I'm going to say shalom, shalom, peace, peace, peace to you, peace to you, peace to your house, and you be at peace, because I want to be at peace moving on, and then leave. And don't look back. Don't live in regret, because if someone is missing you and regrets how they acted, they will pursue you. Just move on. Thanks, guys, for chatting with me tonight, letting me just unpack being my therapist. I'm still working on this. it's a work in progress, and I think that it's inevitable that relationships end because we change. And for myself, that's it. I've grown spiritually. I've grown a lot emotionally. I think in the last couple years, maybe it is because that 50 is around the corner for me. Um, Maybe it's because I'm moving into my grandma era. I don't know. Um, but I've decided that I want peace in my life. And I'm no longer going to allow room in my life for intimate relationships, intimate friendships that don't give me peace, that don't receive truth from me, um, that gaslight me, that make me feel terrible about myself, um, that don't encourage me. I'm so glad, Karen. Thank you so much for chiming in tonight and watching. Share the podcast with somebody else that you think could use some shaking the dust off. Maybe Taylor Swift does know what she's talking about, where she says "shake it off." I can't stand her. So sorry, Taylor. Don't sue me for the rights to your song. I didn't play them. Um, but get the sand in between your toes out, and shake off any negativity from a relationship ending, and take your peace with you. You deserve your peace, and just take it with you and head out onto the road to brighter and better things. And I guarantee when you kind of do that ceremonial washing your hands of something, um, yes, you are right, Mary. It says, "My peace I give to you." Um, we often give it up, but it will always be there. Um, and that's the thing, is we give peace to other people, and oftentimes we need to take it back when the relationship is over, and not live in turmoil like Pigpen, walking around in dust cloud and having asthma. And the other thing about Pigpen is there's no way that kid can't see anything. He must be running into stuff. There's no clear sight. And when you shake the dust off and the dust settles, in a sense, when you get done shaking the dust off and the dust settles, you'll be able to clearly more see the really kind of relationship and friendships that you want to surround yourself with. I am moving into a healthy era, healthy in my body, healthy in my mind, healthy in my spirit, moving into an era where I want people in my life that are going to help lift me up. I hope you guys have a great night. Share the podcast with somebody else. I would love that. I'd love for us to have more people in the chat here chit-chatting with us. If you're watching on the restream, thank you so much for taking time. If you're listening to me on your way to work on Spotify, just leave a comment. Say, "Hey, I'm listening to you on the way to work," or I'm in the carpool line with the kids, whatever it is. And the things that you people that are in here tonight and the people on the restream later can do to support the pod is head up to Venmo there in the corner and shoot us a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. We ain't out here banking millionaires. We're just hustling and trying to pay the bills. You can head over to wherever I've left it. If I had these things, you know what? I'm just not together, kids. Okay. Can head over to here and buy a t-shirt. We're very cool. We have t-shirts and hats as well. Amanda has one, and I happen to know it's very soft. And how else you can support us? By sharing our page, the page you're watching on right now, YouTube, Spotify, or Facebook. Share the podcast with somebody else. And if you're not already, up in the corner of our Facebook page, there is a like and follow button. Like and follow, so you will never miss out on a podcast. I would appreciate that. Don't know where we're going with this, but we're going wherever Jesus calls us to do, and I'm so excited that you're here along for the ride. Thanks for tuning in. I love you, friends. Remember that God loves you, and He has a wonderful plan for your life, one that involves shaking off the dust of your feet and moving on to bigger